Everyone, welcome to day number 4 of PulseChain Founders Week. How's it going? I am Max, your host as usual, and today we have a PH ecosystem with Buck and Dylan on. You saw Dylan's been on the show a few times before, doing various demos, talking about this, talking about Hex before. Lots of cool stuff, so definitely glad to have Buck on the show for the first time. It's good to I've definitely seen a lot of his content and listened to a lot of his other streams and stuff before too. Very interesting guy. Got a lot of different stuff going on as far as products and everything else. So again, everyone, just try to keep it respectful in the chat. This is I like having these conversations too, because even though you don't have to agree with what everyone says in order to get value or understand how they bring value to the ecosystem or not. You can agree, you can disagree, but whatever it is in the chat and otherwise, please keep it respectful. Please, if you come here to learn, come here to evaluate. And for me, from what I've seen and why they're here on Founders Week is there's a lot of capital that these products can bring into the ecosystem. And leverage trading or not, whether you love it, hate it, or otherwise, put some good questions in the chat. We'll try to get to them as well on these different topics. But I think the fact that people are building and making the city, PulseChain, into a place where you have different banking products, different, we got NFT platforms, we got Memecoins, whatever it is. You can be, or at least I can be more or less interested in different ones. But I like people who are building here and bringing stuff in and trying to make this place grow and get bigger and stuff like that. So I'm very excited for this one. Without further ado, we'll go for about an hour or so and call it a day. But hopefully we'll get to a lot of the technical discussion, deep dives. Again, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Without further ado, welcome back to the show, Dylan and Buck Fiat. How's it going, gentlemen?
Doing well, sir. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's these products are ones that I think can't be misunderstood. They can be one of those, we've heard Richard talk about leverage trading bad, all this stuff too. I remember when Richard was doing, he had his BitMEX referral link back in the day too, did that for a while. I remember talking about, please, someone, it was different occasions, someone build leverage trading, I can't wait for the day people could short Hex, all that stuff. And, I know y'all talked about that before, brought on the channel. Of course, tons of risk, tons of different ways to get wrecked, tons of, trading and it incentivizes a lot of different behavior. However, just like there is in the real world, there's all kinds of stuff. Just like you're going to be able to do with liquid loans and Power City and other types of, minting stables to taking on positions and liquidations. A lot of the products have a lot of different risks associated with them. So I'm excited today to get into, sort of the vision and why y'all chose to build these things on PulseChain, the different forks, where they came from, the different ones that are on Ethereum already available. And then, I think hopefully Dylan can demo some of these as well to kind of give people an idea of how they work, and they decide for themselves whether they want to participate or not. So just want to frame the conversation with that. And again, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. But yeah, who wants to take that? What is I guess the first question is what is the vision?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's actually a pretty easy one. So, I think the first thing to understand is that there's a rule in investment, which is that there's no return without risk, right? So you don't get risk-free return beyond, the cash rate or the Fed funds rate without taking some risk. So anybody who's being honest should tell you that always. Crypto is incredibly risky. Everything we're doing on PulseChain is incredibly risky. Hex is risky. PulseX is risky. Pulse is risky. So that's just the ground reality. Our tools are actually about managing your risk. All of us that are exposed to PulseChain are exposing ourselves to a whole bunch of risk. Should I enumerate what they are, or is it already obvious? There's the price risk of cryptocurrency. It's incredibly volatile. It can go up and down minus 99%. It can go up, 10x in a relatively quick amount of time. We have key man risk in Richard Hart. We have, contract risk. We have bridge risk. There's just risk everywhere, right? We have regulatory risk with the SEC. And every other regulatory body on the planet. So Yes, there's risk literally everywhere in this space. And it's not a PulseChain specific thing either. All of crypto is like this to a degree. So there's risk everywhere. So what we do is actually provide you tools that help you manage your risk. Now, does that come with responsibilities? Absolutely, yes. Right. So just like when you do your self-defense, right? You can learn how to defend yourself, through martial arts or firearms or bow and arrow or slingshot or whatever you want. But like if you don't use those tools properly, you can wind up in trouble, right? And that's oftentimes what happens. So as a Hex OG, I was sitting around, in the 2022 top, thinking, geez, I wish I had a way to cover my position, especially my long-term stakes. And I had absolutely no tools at the time. And as an investment professional, it would be very obvious to me what I would do. I would just go, buy derivatives that would basically cover, my kind of long position, right? I don't in the real world, let's say I'm long stocks. I don't actually have to sell my stocks. I can really just buy puts, right? And if something awful happens with the markets, then the puts basically offset my exposure. So much of what you're told by Richard in terms of, don't trade, don't leverage trade, don't do this, don't do that. A lot of these are kind of high level advice to very nuanced people that, are likely to go and do things that are going to be misusing tools like this. And indeed, if you're trying to, shoot for the moon with a large sum of money out of your bag with a leverage trading platform or something like that, I would say you are being foolish and misusing them. But these things exist for a reason, and it's really to help people manage their risk, but they do get misused by people. So I think the key thing to keep in mind here is, what do we tell people up front? Do we tell them about the risks? Do we tell them that, a platform like Fame is a zero-sum game, or do we tell them that leverage has risks? Do we encourage them to, go 30x long, with their entire life savings, right? Do we tell them that, do we incentivize them to, trade more, with, bonuses or something, like that? Do we send them, free cocktails like a casino? Do we do any of these kind of predatory things? Do we pay influencers, which is what actually Dylan's nemesis told me to do. He said, you should pay influencers to go shill your platform. Well, we're not going to do that because we don't do predatory stuff like that. I think that's really, the key thing to understand here. So these platforms are actually incredibly virtuous, but can be used, in really lousy ways. I reject the notion that they're actually necessarily riskier than, any of the coins that people like. They're not. They're actually there to manage your risk. So it's just there's a fair amount of unsophistication, but with people about these things, and so Dylan and I try to educate people about that. We usually get yelled at by a portion of people who say that I'm talking down to them, but you wouldn't if a doctor explained, okay, here's how your endocrine system worked, you wouldn't say, hey, you're talking down to me, bro. Like, I know what I'm doing here. Like, it's just a little bit laughable. But that's really what our products are about, managing risk.
Yeah, the managing risk, that's very interesting that you talked about too. Just the sort of the vision, how it came about was you wanted these products, you wanted to use them back in the last bull run and towards the bear, and they weren't available. So, PulseChain came about. Hey, there's opportunity to fork some of these things that work well in Ethereum and bring them to PulseChain. Again, knowing there are risk management. I do like that framing. I think that's the healthier way to even think about it. Is these products will allow you to do lots of different things with your money, leverage and otherwise, but how you use them is up to you. But they will let you do all these things that could get you wrecked or could make you a lot of money too. And the whole, again, I brought up, Rich talked about leverage trading. I think you hit it there too, where a lot of things he says, many things he says are directed at, generally at unsophisticated people, or just general wisdom to be like, you're probably not special. You're probably not the one who knows how to do this correctly. You're probably not the one who's going to make a lot. Maybe you are. And if you are, then you know how much to take this advice and how much not to. But if you aren't, don't do these things. But it kind of, when you generally take that phrase and you build it up, and then somebody makes a product that does exactly that thing, it is kind of this like instant, easy, visceral response of like, no, go against that. That's not good, that sort of thing. And I mean, I get it too. I get it. When you guys were first building it too, I was thinking, okay, these are, as RHMaxi, Maxi for Richard's ideals, his products are just a natural extension of that. But I love seeing people build things that bring the tools we need into the ecosystem, and thinking more deeply than just, okay, this is something Richard said was bad before. This product can enable people to do that. There's all kinds of products that enable people to do all kinds of things, but there's people who are more and less advanced and know how to use them. Some people don't. So I think there's a lot of nuance there that gets lost. So that's what I'm hoping having these conversations.
And I would say I really wish Richard were around still and like able to address this stuff, because I really don't think he would disagree with anything I just said there. These platforms can be run in predatory ways. Like I don't like when they advertise on YouTube to teenagers, with kind of rocket ship cartoons like Plus 500. But these platforms exist in the real world and are used every day by investment professionals. They're legal for a reason, because they are very, very useful and needed. You don't have a good capital market system without the ability to basically use tools like this. You need these things in order to find price properly. If you don't have people basically competing with their money to decide what something should be worth through buying and shorting, then you don't really get a real price. And oftentimes you get really bad bubbles, or really bad, what's the opposite of a bubble, Dylan? I'm losing
depressions.
Yeah, really bad depressions where, basically you go from having people being, just well over their skis to, just broke overnight. With these tools, you have the ability to limit your risk, right? So rather than putting, if your life savings is, let's say, $1 million, right? What they would have told you in the bull market is, sell your house and put it all into X, right? With a platform like this, which is incredibly risky, and I think irresponsible, by the way, but we'll leave that at that. But instead of doing that, if you wanted the $1 million of exposure, you could take $100,000 and 10x that leverage, and you'd have the same level of exposure, but you'd still have $900,000 of cash, right? Or you'd still own your home, right? Importantly, so then you have like a spectacular failure, let's say, where HEX drops from 50 cents to below a cent, right? Now that's a really dark scenario, for that person that did that, right? Now, if they use leverage, they'd still have 90% of their asset base, right? Now, maybe they get wrecked repeatedly. That's a possibility, but I actually think you'd almost be better off, right? Just actually limiting your risk and saying rather than trying to get massive exposure. So, leverage can use responsibly is really useful for that purpose. And, you don't need to use lots of it. You can use, like a 1.3x leverage or something like that, I think is pretty good. And in general, when it comes to these sort of platforms, one way I like to use them is I'm massively overexposed to PulseChain just naturally by being an OG and by having the PEH stuff. So I'm a natural shorter on my own platforms. And that's because the only thing that really keeps me up at night is, what if PulseChain just really drops a ton, right? Like what if things go really wrong, right? If things go up, I don't really care. Like I'm super happy, right? So one thing I'm open and transparent about is that I'm basically constantly putting shorts out on Fame.io, and I hope I get liquidated, right? Because if I do, on the other side, I'm going to be doing very well with my actual spot position, and that's how I've actually reduced my overall risk by doing that. So I can take out a $250,000 notional short on Fame.io, and if things go really badly, DOJ calls or something like that happens, which should happen. So you get you saw it happen in Israel this week, right? It can be very useful to have that sort of stuff, and that's really the proper way to think about it. So as I said earlier, that's called risk management, and that's just an example of something I do. And before somebody in the chat gets angry, when I do that short on Fame.io, I'm not actually pushing the price down of HEX, just so you guys know. This is a price taking thing. You can think of almost like a video game where I'm betting against other people in the market who are also playing the same video game about whether price goes up or down. When you do this with Fiat.io, though, it does have the potential to, you do have the potential to actually short the spot rate of HEX by actually selling physical HEX, but you don't have the ability to do that at like 30x or something like that, just as an important sidebar.
No, it's super good to know. I think the mechanics of that, again, a lot of it just gets drowned in. That's why I like having this, walking through different pieces, how it works, how the leverage works, and how to protect yourself, how to manage risk, because a lot of it gets drowned out by, okay, I hear what you're saying, but you're making my price go down, or why are you shorting this, or all this stuff, or even you could just go to splitting buying pressure. Hey, more products to take away people from buying HEX. Now they got to buy your stuff. All that I think is just a super simple, without having the nuanced conversation around how these things actually work and how they're helping the ecosystem, which is what I want to get into next before we get into some demos of. Without understanding that, it is easy to get confused. It is easy. And some of these there's no right and wrong answer. Well, this is just what do you prefer? Trade-offs. Do you prefer this to exist? Do you not prefer to exist because of whatever you value and whatever trade-off you have, and whatever. Maybe many people will never use these products to do any risk management. They'll just figure out another way to do it or not do it at all. But having them around, again, can you talk about that a little bit of just, you mentioned, having that, being able to manage your risk better by placing positions and otherwise having the products available now. How can these help people, not only, the tokenomics and otherwise like that, we'll get into that, but how can they help people manage the risk? If they didn't exist, what would people be doing right now, for example?
Yeah, so maybe I'll answer that one too, Dylan. Sorry. So I guess the key thing about that is if you don't have self-discipline and the energy to actually really try and understand these systems and how to use them properly, then I would encourage you not to use Fame.io or Fiat.io or really anything like that. I would say you also probably shouldn't be investing your own money if you're unwilling to do that, right? It's it's not for everybody. Investing is hard. Managing risk is hard, right? I've literally got qualifications that took me a very, very long time and required taking all sorts of tests and things like that, and 20 years of experience doing it. It's a big deal. So yeah, there is, I think, if you're being honest with yourself, if you're going to put a large sum of your personal wealth in any investment, including cryptocurrency, but especially cryptocurrency, you really owe it to yourself to do the research in general. Is the problem with my audio?
I don't hear a lot of his. I think it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Somebody was complaining. So I think you owe it to yourself to really do as much research on this stuff as possible. It's actually more important than the individual coins you buy. It's well known in the investment management world that like your asset allocation, which is basically the composition of your portfolio, is generally way more important than what you buy. So thanks for that, Brizology. The audio is fine. All right. A lot of people get that wrong though. They all think they're going to go pick hot stocks and be really smart and get rich that way. But in reality, just where you allocate to, how much you allocate to, at what times in the market is actually much more important. If you think about the last cycle, if you're allocating, when people are dancing on coffins, and whatnot, like you're down 97% now, right? And even if you went broadly, let's say into AVAX and other kind of comparable type of risk crypto, you're down about the same, right? Whereas, if you saw all that and said, I'm going home now and buying US dollars, right? And waited until FTX collapsed, you're probably up 30, 40%, 50% right now. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of one aspect of things that people probably don't talk enough about. And, maybe it's too nuanced for YouTube or, even this community, I don't know. But to me, this is a really obvious thing that, you want tools to be able to manage your risk in your asset allocation, right? So if you are, in a illiquid position such as staked HEX, or you don't want to have to sell your Pulse or your PulseX for tax purposes, or you're just not sure and you want to buy insurance, right? Portfolio insurance effectively in case, something bad happens. These sound like really useful tools to me. But I think a lot of people are not interested in the truth in this community. Like, I think that's, the reality. They like promoting false narratives. They like short-term dopamine hits, and they're perfectly happy promoting total and utter nonsense. We try to be as honest as possible, and even if it's not necessarily in our direct self-interest. So, you're not going to see me here telling people that they should leverage trade 30x max bidding, really ever. And if I ever do it, I'm doing it ironically, by the way, just in case somebody screenshots something where I say you should go 30x long. Like I'm being ironic when I say that, just for clarity.
Just speaking of that, I wanted to go over before we get into the demo too, because I know I definitely want to see more of the platform. But what are some ways you would just be like, oh, don't do that? What are some of the things that commonly get people wrecked that if they're going to use a platform that they should stay away from?
Yeah, well, I'd say so. First, it's like what commonly gets you wrecked, being over concentrated in general, right? So as I said, anybody who tells you to go all in on a single asset is not your friend. That's a really bad thing. So don't do that, right? As a rule, diversify as much as possible. Buy different assets. Don't put all your money in PH products. Don't put all your money in PulseChain products, right? Like that's the number one key thing. Don't put all your money in cryptocurrency, right? If you're gonna put your money in cryptocurrency, spread it out. Like we have a high conviction, about this community, but bad things can happen, things that aren't even our fault, right? You can get evil government actors, that just decide that they want to, attack us, right? That sucks. It has nothing. It doesn't say anything about our community or our enthusiasm and anything like that. But bad things happen. So don't do that. I think that's really the first cardinal rule in terms of specifically with our platforms. The main thing is don't come up with a reason for why you're making the trade always, right? Like there should be a reason why, and that reason probably shouldn't be, because I feel like gambling today, right? There, you should know exactly why you're making your trade. And that may be for a few different reasons. So examples of why you might make a trade is you want to maybe reduce your risk through a short because you're concerned about being, as I said, over concentrated. That's an example of a reason to make a trade. Another reason could be that you think you have some sort of edge that where in information. Like an example, this could be you see a guy who commonly buys HEX bring $1 million across the bridge, right? You have a 30-minute window before you think it's likely that guy is going to buy, right? So that could be an information edge that maybe you've picked, that you've noticed, and maybe not the whole market has noticed, right? So you make a trade for that purpose, right? But there should be a reason for it. I think bet sizing is very important as well. I make pretty big trades on Fame.io, but that's because I'm usually hedging my broader portfolio, which is bigger, right? So I might short $250,000 notional, but that'll be because my portfolio is going to be worth a few $1 million. Right. So in the context of it, I'm actually only hedging, 10% of my portfolio. Right. So, so definitely know why you're doing it. Do it in the appropriate sizing. And ideally, most things you do should be diversifying your risk, not concentrating it. Right. So a lot of us are, got in at different stages. So we might be over our skis and, PulseX, or we might be over our skis and HEX or whatever, so, one nice way of diversifying yourself is, potentially shorting the thing you already own and leveraging the thing that you don't own. Right. So you can do what's called a pair trade, where you could short HEX, let's say, because let's say you own tons of HEX, right? So if HEX goes up a lot, you don't care because you own it in spot. But maybe you want to diversify and have more exposure to Ethereum, right? So you can go long with ETH, right? So if ETH does well and HEX doesn't, you're going to be, happier than if you just stayed in one thing. So these are all sort of appropriate ways to think about it.
Yeah, the amount of leverage too. You mentioned that earlier about 30x versus 1x versus 100x. Some platforms do that. Is that the thing that people get the most? Like they associate like leverage with you risking everything on a risky play.
Yeah. Good. Thanks for bringing that up, because to me that's a bit obvious. So I didn't even mention it. But the more leverage you have, the higher the potential, the higher the likelihood that you're going to get liquidated.
Yep. The more exposure you have.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that high leverage is bad, though. It just means that you're more likely to get liquidated. You're potentially risking less principal in doing so, right? So, you should be prepared. If you're using a high leverage, like 30x leverage, you should be prepared to be liquidated pretty quickly, right? And then you should probably put on another trade after that, right? So the idea is that you should be risking a lot less capital in order to do that. If you're leveraging 1.3x, then you would really think that it's pretty unlikely you're going to get liquidated. But if something cataclysmic happens and you do get liquidated, your 1.3x liquidation is actually very painful, right? Because you've basically lost a much bigger percentage of your premium that you put up. It's actually a pretty nuanced topic. But yeah, so the kind of key thing to understand there is if you are using high leverage, you should probably be doing it in very small amounts relative to your total portfolio, right? Because that's sort of the responsible thing to do, in that regard.
Gotcha. We got a question here from PulseX. Any future sports betting products come into the PH ecosystem?
We were supposed to have that stuff, but the project that decided to build Memecoins instead, so we don't have it.
Is that right? It's funny. We actually have a little bit of a background in arbitraging that space. We don't have any plans to do that though. To be honest, I'm pretty happy with the suite that we've got. I think if PulseChain has legs, this is a very valuable suite, and we can just basically stick with this. I don't think there's any need to do that. I think the key thing really is for PulseChain to make it and survive. I spend most of my time just trying to get people to collaborate with each other. I spent a lot of time yesterday talking to the other builders, about what we can do to kind of help the PR machine and get people excited about PulseChain. Not having
pay influencers, obviously.
Yeah, I like the influencers. That's for sure. I'm not an influencer, right? So like the part that I can do is really, about organizing, with the other builders, and, kind of like what is the chain missing and stuff like that. You influencers are good looking people, and we like you. But our competency isn't going out and shaking hands and looking people in the eye. It's doing really nerdy code stuff that involves a lot of math.
Buck's got the radio face, so
yeah, exactly. And I'm old, I think that's kind of the key thing. For us, there's a lot of things that aren't built yet for PulseChain. Like, just an example, we don't have staked Pulse, like a Lido or a Rocket Pool type equivalent.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be super nice. To kind of get us on an even footing with Ethereum. To start, right. Like all these things that people don't care about, because most people are really only worried about, their short term, pop and dump gains, or whatever. But like the people that actually really care about the long term interests of the chain are going to be focused on is, building out all that infrastructure, and things like Infura and other stuff. That doesn't make people any money. There's a guy in the chat saying blah blah blah. Piece of shit, those two. Yeah, there you go. So
that's what POS means. I thought it was positive, those two.
No, piece of shit. Yeah. So there you go. So look, I'm probably not going to be the right guy for you, Nadia, if what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, and that's okay.
There's a question from Fast, which is actually interesting. Fast is very clever and very quick-witted and says some funny things sometimes. However, loans against WhatsApp, loans against even collateralizing NFTs and otherwise. Have you all thought about doing anything around sort of that area?
Not specifically WhatsApp. We would love to see stuff like that exist in the future, because obviously we have a big Hedron position. But
we would need to have an efficient market for it as well, right?
Yeah.
So we need to have a functioning NFT market that we can actually have and see bids and asks, right? So we need infrastructure to be built for that stuff.
And that's pretty cutting edge stuff, like the DeFi lending on NFTs. Yeah. We prefer to do things that are a little bit more established.
Tried and true.
This is something that people might criticize us for, that we're not big on innovating, and that's true, especially when we're just trying to play catch up with Ethereum. We look at PulseChain and there's really no innovation there. It's a direct one-to-one copy of Ethereum, as far as I understand, really, with I guess the Ethereum renamed Pulse and multiplied by, what is it, 10 million, Dylan?
1 million.
And I think that was the right call by Richard, to be honest. Like, I think that decision he made, which was controversial, to not to abandon the idea of the 2-second blocks and everything else that went with it. I think that was actually a very good move by him, because I think we can do very well just being almost like a Litecoin to Bitcoin to Ethereum, if that makes sense. Because Ethereum has all these scaling issues, and because the L2s that are looking to solve those don't really have solid communities around them, and because people really like the idea of a native token that can go up exponentially, like Pulse I think can in the right circumstances, and you don't get that from the L2. Because you're basically just stuck with the Ethereum exposure. I actually think we can do very well. So yeah, I think that's sort of how I think about it. But yeah, NFT lending, that's very high tech. And one place where I don't think we have a really good competency is the NFT space in general. I'm not super passionate about it. Personally.
Look at the founder. I mean, you can get a copy of all your free JPEGs.
Yeah. I mean, and I know there's people doing the stuff in that space on PulseChain, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'm super happy about that. But personally, it just doesn't speak to me about my life. And I know a lot of people will say, well, everything like Nydia here thinks, blah blah blah. Just like the things that I care about probably don't resonate with them. I feel similarly about NFTs. It doesn't mean one of us is good or bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not very interested in NFTs, meme coins, otherwise. But I see the city of PulseChain. I'm like, these things bring people in. Hopefully, they play some healthy games. Hopefully, they don't get wrecked. But they're here, and it gets them interested, especially in the bear market. That's the thing in a bull market, things, people are interested in different things. Bear market, it's kind of like just keeping people distracted enough not to go to another place and not to maybe not completely wreck themselves. However, can't solve any of that. Anyways, speaking of number go up, wanted to talk about this for a minute too. PHUX, number 2, number 4 Fame, and number 5 Fiat, the top 5 of TVL on PulseChain according to DeFi Llama. Where does this number look in 6 months from now? What do you guys? What are some, not projections, but does it go up?
Can you tell me what the price of Pulse is 6 months from now? Because then I could probably give you a good estimate.
Ooh, I'm hoping 1 penny. That's what I
want to point out that on PHUX there's $7 million that is unaccounted for because DeFi Llama doesn't account for some of these altcoins, and then Fame, I think, is also underweight, and then Fiat is short of about $1 million on DeFi Llama as well.
Yeah, and I think SparkSwap is more or less, isn't that really that TVL is really connected just to PulseX? In reality,
I have no idea.
I think it's built on top of PulseX, but so yeah, I mean we're the biggest players in this space across multiple protocols. I quite like this page you brought up actually here. So thank you for bringing it up. It's one of my favorite ones. Where does it go? I think we're pretty well correlated with the Richard Hart coins. There's logic to it, which I don't want to bore the users with it, but our protocols basically pay out in Richard Hart coins and stable coins and Bitcoin and Ethereum to a lesser degree, right? So their future value is directly tied to the success of PulseChain. So at this stage, the market's looking at those cash flows and trying to guess what they might be in the future. But yeah, if Pulse and PulseX and Hexer go up significantly, I would imagine you'll see our tokens go up with them. I would think probably more because if you think about it, the amount of fees will probably increase significantly, and the rate of that will increase. The word for that is operating leverage. It has nothing to do with leverage trading, by the way. This is just an accounting term. We'll probably go up. Conversely, if Pulse drops 50%, we're going to go right down with it. That's just the ground reality.
Yeah, I was just, it's hard to ignore. Like you said, looking at these, all the millions of dollars that are currently locked again, bear market. Nobody likes crypto. Everyone's just doing degen plays and otherwise, we're building But it's like looking at these numbers, they look so small right now, but also very impressive considering like this is money coming into the chain. This is money that's a lot of it's maybe being locked up through different protocols and being used for liquidity and really helping build people's experience around this and people earning yield from it as well. So yeah, I think this page is telling just from the fact that you see 2 million, you see 5 million or 23 million and 2 million, all this stuff. And it's like, what if PulseChain is billion TVL one day? Like a bull run, what if it hits a billion? That's only a 10x from here. Yeah, the other ones, they're locking up a lot of capital. And again, that's helping the chain and people use it. The sky's the limit as far as that goes. Looks like, I know you talked about, heard you talk about, market cap and how it mattering and stuff like that. I'm looking at TVL and I'm like, this is a great start, and I wonder what in an actual bull run when people are really trading crypto, what it's going to look like. It's hard to ignore.
It could be wonderful, and I think for me the main thing is I just want us to be ready if that does happen. That is largely out of our hands, right? Like the founders don't really have the magical ability to wave a wand at these things and make them go up, and I'll say right now, we don't manipulate our tokens, right? And if we do buy them, we announce it. Like we bought $50,000 worth of Fame yesterday and immediately announced it in our chat. But that 50K buy, doesn't really move it too much, right? We're definitely keen to be ready for that bull market if it happens, if and when it happens. There's a lot of stuff that's still missing. I'm excited to see Coast, for example, grow their stablecoin pool to 2.5 million. I think that's pretty good progress, right? But that's relatively minuscule in terms of like the amount of actual native stablecoins we want to have on PulseChain. I'm looking forward to having Liquid Loans as a stablecoin, to kind of add to that. But I'd also like to see, and this is, and it's like, don't take this the wrong way, but like, I'd love to see, someone like USDT or True USD, actually look at PulseChain and go, you know what, we'd be interested in, issuing a token there and having, and competing for market share there. There's not enough of that going on right now. We're not on too many CEXs. That's a problem. I know everybody hates CEXs. Like I get it. And I know Richard's talked about how terrible CEXs are. I get it. But, they're also very useful for onboarding new users. And, put everything going through a bridge is naturally a limiting factor, right? It's expensive. You got to pay, 30 basis points in either direction. It's a scary process, right? If you've never done it before. Which most people in crypto haven't, So, these are all things that I think are relatively important. It's funny. I want the bull market to come, but I don't want it to come too quick because I don't think we're ready yet. Actually, if that makes sense. I mean, I'll take it. I'll take a bull market now over no bull market. Don't get me wrong, but it would be better if if we're playing with our full hand of cards, right? If we've got those NFT platforms and stable coins and, like a proper PulseChain foundation, something I've been talking to Alex from Hedron about, if we have standards set up, if we get this SEC stuff out of the way, like, that would be wonderful. And then we can have a bull market. Like, and we go into this, with all of our powers, that would be great. Because right now, the only thing that's exciting about PulseChain in my mind is kind of what you just brought up, which is that like there's a solid community of people that are pretty well emotionally invested, and and there's a decent pipeline, primarily coming from the community of products. But I'd like to see more competition. I'd like to see people come and kick my ass, right? It's sort of bullshit that like I think we're really the top, after PulseX we're the top 3, if you're like counting it properly. I think there should be all sorts of really good people, knocking us down that list. And I really hope that happens. Like, I'll be the happiest in reality. It's funny. A lot of people, I think they look at competition as like this zero sum game where, like, you know, I'm miserable when I see other people succeed, but I never feel that way. I'm miserable when I see PulseChain not succeeding. I'll be fine. You know, like, so yeah, please come and, you know, build for PulseChain and make it better. That's awesome.
I think the splitting of buying pressure gets a lot better when there's more people coming in, because if we have all these products and we only have air people who are in now the ecosystem, hey, we got a lot of whales, everything's good too, but still there's only that's when the splitting and buying pressure, hey, I'm not going to buy Hex, I'm not going to buy PulseChain, I'm going to buy these other coins, or I'm not going to buy Fame, I'm going to buy this other coin because it's a new protocol and I only have so much money and there's only so much to go around. But when you start expanding it, and other people, you brought up, it's a really good point of, once people start seeing and maybe issuing stable coins or issuing whatever they want on PulseChain because they see it's a place where things are happening, they see it as a place of it's profitable to go build here, that's going to be a game changer. And nobody's in the bull market when everything's going up, no one's going to be like, oh, you can't, you're taking away from this, you're taking away from that. The pie, you know, the pie, it's almost like the mental model changes of like, oh no, we have plenty for everyone now because the green candles and it's all good now. So that's going to be exciting when and if it comes. But yeah, I think we want to be ready for it.
I agree. Hey, Max, I'm going to have to run in a minute, but I just want to answer one question. Somebody just asked, they said, do you dislike meme tax, or do you still dislike meme or tax tokens? Lego My Crypto, don't believe everything you read on Twitter, especially from, you know, like anonymous accounts that have no following and whatnot. You know, if the pandemic taught you anything, it's that there's a lot of people out there that have an axe to grind and want to lie about people. And you know, if you've ever seen anybody attacked via cancel culture or anything like that, you know, cynically, you know, just try to understand that, you know, the reason you're being told a lot of the things is because you know, people are dishonest and conflicted. Now, my personal feeling about meme coins is I like them. I think Bitcoin and Hex are sort of meme coins. You know, I think meme coins are, you know, the kind of lifeblood of crypto to a degree. What I don't like are scams, especially really cynically done scams. And scams exist not just in meme coins, but they exist in you know, utility tokens or DeFi protocols. In fact, there's a scam or two on the screen right now, I believe. So that, you know, so it's not that I'm against meme coins. It's that I'm against scams. So I'm against pump and dump scams, and I'm open about that. And, you know, if you're not against pump and dump scams, well, then, you know, I guess we just disagree. But pump and dumps are illegal basically everywhere. Yeah, I don't know why that would be controversial. But yeah, I love meme coins. I think Hex is a meme coin. I think Bitcoin's a meme coin. So don't let people tell you otherwise. But I do have to run. Maybe Dylan, you can take over.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Buck. Thanks for coming on. Nice to finally get you on.
Yeah, let's. Sorry, I'm in a rush this week. I'm just super busy the next 48 hours. But yeah,
no worries.
I'm very happy to come on again anytime.
Awesome, appreciate it, sir. Have a good one.
And
then there was Dylan. Yes.
Yes.
So I've heard you like to do, or you can. You're very capable of doing very nice demos and walking through stuff, huh?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go over the product suites, or how about that?
Sounds good. Yeah. And again, I really want to. I think people, and myself included, get Fame and Fiat mixed up so much on their capabilities and what they do. I really want to hit that home too, if we could. Like, I think it is important to know what does which, and like, so when you're thinking, hey, I want to do this thing, I know which one to go to, and they don't go there and get confused, all that stuff.
Yeah. So generally speaking, there's 3 products here that, and then a 4th one that is just a wallet aggregator. But these 3, they are, you know, financial products that you can use at your disposal. All right. So essentially, this one here, this is Fiat. Okay. This is your DeFi bank for PulseChain, right? This is tailor-made for the community. You know, it is specifically made to, you know, be your bank. It is your line of credit when you need it. It is your place to borrow funds as you see fit, right? If you're trying to invest in a business or start up some sort of venture that you're doing, right? This is the place that is useful to you if you have assets on PulseChain, right? So, for example, let's say you want to buy that Ferrari, right? And the market is getting really fluffy, all right? And you got 8 figures in your account, and it's time to start buying some cool shit, right? Well, exactly, Lambo. If you didn't want to sell your assets, what you could do is you could just take out a loan, right? And you could deposit your Pulse. You can go borrow some stable coins, bridge it out. You can go buy that Ferrari, right? Or you could be productive, and you could start a business. You could, you could have lines of credit. Basically, you could use this for payroll if you needed, right? You're just borrowing against your assets. It is important to know that these are over collateralized loans, so you have to put up more money than you're able to borrow against, right? That's generally the concept here. Now, one of our biggest clients, if I'm not mistaken, is Coast, right? They're self-funded. The Stoic guys, they're doing a fantastic job with Coast. They didn't raise any money. However, they have a lot of exposure to PulseChain, and to run their business, what they're doing is, they're depositing on Fiat, and they're opening up lines of credit to continue their operations, right? And do everything that they need to do. And they're a great client, right? You can see here on the dashboard the range of coins that you can deposit, which also means you can also borrow all of these coins. There's various deposit rates and borrow rates. Okay, that spread between what you see as deposit APY and variable rate APY, that is the called the net interest margin that's paid to the stakers of the Fiat token, right? So right now, obviously, PulseChain isn't extremely liquid, but when the bull comes and we get lots of liquidity, you'll start to see these deposits, perhaps reach the 8 figures at some point. And people are paying 3% to borrow HEX or something like this, or to borrow a stable coin. And 3% on 8 figures, it's pretty decent, right? Especially for a stable coin. Just for being a depositor, right? Now, the only truly single-sided staking that you can do right now with PulseX would be on Fiat. Obviously it's not a gigantic rate, but it is literally the only place where you could get pure single-sided staking. So people
how does that work? Like when people say, what do you mean single-sided staking with Fiat? Like how is that similar to what we want on, or what a lot of people want, at least on PulseX?
Yeah, so what people are looking for on PulseX is they lock up their PulseX coins, right? And then they get something for free, and they don't have to do any work. They don't have to have any sort of impermanent loss. They're literally just taking their tokens, time locking them, and they're getting something for free, right? On Fiat, much like how a bank works, if you deposit your dollars or something into a savings account or a CD, you get a deposit rate. Okay. On Fiat, like same thing with the bank. You deposit on Fiat. You're being paid by the borrowers to deposit your assets so that they can borrow them. So they're paying you back, right? The money is coming from the depositors, or I'm sorry, from the borrowers, just like at a bank. So, but yes.
So to just connect the parallel, so on PulseX, you would put your PulseX there, you would stake it, you would earn some other token, community token, however that's going to work or will work when it happens. And on Fiat, again, just to make it clear, you can put down PulseX, you can put down other coins, and then you earn. You clarify that?
Yeah, so you would literally just get the coins that you've deposited, right? So let's go to my dashboard. I think I have a couple loans. So I've got Pulse and DAI as deposits right now, right? And I borrowed some HEX. Now I'm making 1.38% on my DAI, right? Last week I was making 20% on my DAI. Somebody was really borrowing a lot of DAI the other day. And so it's obviously variable, right? Depends on use. Okay. More use, more you pay. Okay. And then with Pulse, the other day it was maybe 1%. Okay. So somebody's obviously paid back some other loans. They've consolidated their debt, whatever they're doing, right? It's just the market. Okay. But yeah, so these deposits that I have up here, I get more of those tokens because people are borrowing Pulse, people are borrowing DAI. So naturally, I'm going to be paid to be a depositor. Okay, so that's kind of how that works, right? And you can see that I've borrowed some HEX, so I'm currently paying the people that have deposited HEX. I'm paying them some interest for borrowing this HEX here. These loans are they slowly grow over time, right? So it's not like there's a payment plan or a period. It's basically based on your collateral versus your debt, right? So once it gets to an unsafe level, it'll start your assets will be put up for liquidation, and a liquidator, which anybody can run a liquidation bot, will take your coins and start using your collaterals to buy back your debt on the market and pay off your loans. Okay, and it'll do that in little chunks until either you have reached a safe health factor, which is how we calculate your collateral versus your debt, or until you're liquidated, right? So one of those two things, and it'll happen relatively quick. Okay. But yeah, so
well, I just want to say on the deposit side, so for this to get back to the pulse or the DAI that you deposited earning the APY on, you would just withdraw, and then it would just come back into your total, or how do you get the coins back that you've earned, I guess?
Yeah, so you just withdraw, right? And basically you can see my balance is just growing ever so slowly, right? You see the number ticking up there. I withdraw my coins. I should have like a very small decimal place more pulse than I did when I deposited, right? Just naturally, because people are borrowing the coins and their debt is growing. So my deposit is also growing. Okay. Now, in this case, you might ask, okay, well, what if they never pay back their loans? Okay, well, that's a great question. They never pay back their loans. There could be a situation where people could withdraw a bunch of coins, and then it would be just left where they owe the platform this amount of coins. Okay, and then they will be charged out the ass on interest. Okay, until it catches up to their collateral once again, or until the price goes back down and then their collateral is sold to pay their loan off from the spot market, right? So those two things would have to happen for you to get the rest of those deposits out. So
that's what's going to ask the risk as far as like depositing stuff. You're earning the APY. It's way different than the borrowing. All right, borrowing, you get liquidated. The deposit side where you're earning the APY, the risk is,
it's contract risk, right? If there was a bug in the Aave code or something that the audit that we've done on Fiat that wasn't caught or something like that, then yeah, there's contract risk, right? There's risk that all the shit goes to zero, right? Like, that's a risk. If you're borrowing, yes, you're open to, if you're not borrowing responsibly, if you're using, you're borrowing your max and everything out, yeah, of course, you're going to be exposed to liquidations a lot easier than somebody that's borrowing responsibly, of course. But yeah, generally speaking, if you're a depositor, you're basically thinking about contract risk, or let's say you have a bridge stable coin, okay, and then the bridge goes down, okay, and you're deposited here, so obviously, that causes an issue for the platform if the bridge were to go down and the stable coins were to implode, right? So, yeah, those are the risks that you have here. But I mean,
is there any waiting period? Like, is there like a trading window risk of like, hey, I want to make this trade. I need these coins right now, but I need to wait some time, or is it just withdrawal and you get it back?
No, you withdraw. It takes a couple seconds to process transactions. It's just as fast as the blockchain.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Well, I was thinking if you're staking your Fiat coins, there's like a 7-day deal on that though.
Yes. Now that's a different question. Yeah. So if you're staking, right? Yeah. So if you're taking your Fiat tokens and you're wanting to get a share of the revenue, and you stake your coins. Now there's no set time locking feature. So it's not like Hex. It's not like you set a specific date and time and then you have a 14-day window to end your Hex stake, right? It doesn't work like that. Basically, you can stake your Fiat tokens and then they just sit there. All right. Now, when you want them out, you go and do unstake now, right? And then you'd select the amount. You'd press unstake, and then a transaction will pop up. You confirm that, right? And then you have a unlocking period, and you have to wait 14 days. Okay. Now, after those 14 days have passed, you have a withdrawal window. You have 7 days to withdraw your stake tokens. Okay. Now, through this entire time, through the unlocking period and up until you actually withdraw your tokens, you'll always be accruing extra tokens. Okay. And once you remove those tokens, then your APYs and stuff, obviously that goes away. As in you're no longer earning anything. Okay. But you can claim the rewards throughout the entire process. There's no penalties or anything like that. If you don't unstake, it acts like nothing ever happened, and it just goes back to being staked. And then you'd have to reinitiate the transaction to start the unlocking window or the unlocking period again. So
on the rewards, I see PHUX and I see a bunch of coins, PLS, PLSX, but they're PH on the prefix. What does that mean?
Yeah, so that means that they're deposits. So the way that you know that, let's say you have deposits, is it's called PHWDI, PHWUSDC, PHX, okay, PulseX, right? That just represents your deposits. That's your token of receipt for your deposits. Now, what you can do about this is if let's say you're in a pinch, right? And you need some money on another account, okay? And you have a different account that has deposits already. What you could do is you could send yourself those tokens, all right? You can send yourself those PH tokens and you can increase your collateral on this other account that is in a risky situation, or you can send these to your friends. And then one day, obviously, when it's enabled, you'll be able to deposit these on, PHUX. And, you could provide liquidity with them, and you can make a market with these PH receipts of deposits. Okay. But those are coins. They're just receipts.
Okay. Receipts. Yeah. I just imagine you look at it and say, okay, what is it? PH? Is that a platform? Like it's a receipt token. So they're not convertible. Basically, can you just use them on the platform then?
Yeah. So you redeem them on Fiat, right? So,
redeem, okay.
I would claim my rewards, and then it would just act like a deposit. It would just be added to my deposits, and then I can withdraw that. That's how that works.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Any more on Fiat, or do you want to? Again, I want to make it very clear the difference what you would do on Fiat versus Phame.
Yeah. So to kind of sum it up, this is your bank, right? This is not your NASDAQ. This is where you're going to your JP Morgan Chase. This is your Bank of America, Wells Fargo. This is where you're borrowing assets. Okay. This is where you can, do you take out a mortgage, right? Now, obviously you'd have to have more in your deposits to borrow against, right? You're not getting leverage here. However, you can also do what's called, flash loans to increase your exposure to assets, where basically, you kind of do the looping method, which is like buying or borrowing an asset, then going on the market, buying it, depositing it, borrowing more of the asset, going on the market, buying it, depositing it again, borrowing more of the asset, etc. You can do that with a flash loan and do it in one transaction. However, I'm not smart enough to do that. But if you're competent enough, you can set up these flash loans. You can do that and increase your exposure to the assets via leverage. However, it's much easier to do it on Phame if you wanted leverage. It's just way easier on Phame to do that. So you can do that. But essentially, this is where you're going to be opening up lines of credit, right? This is where you can be a depositor. You can get probably the lowest risk in terms of an APY and without having any sort of impermanent loss. But yeah, essentially this is your bank of PulseChain. All right.
Gotcha.
And then so I guess we could go to PHUX. This is the balancer fork of PulseChain. This is your one-stop shop for all of the altcoins that you care about, right? The unique advantage of PHUX over a classic V2 style liquidity setup would be having over 2 tokens per pool, which is on PHUX. You can do up to 8, right? Because we're a fork of balancer. We also have stable swap pools. So very valuable in terms of finding decent prices or the most efficient pricing for your stablecoins, right? Because before this, I vividly remember before the PHUX came about, very many opportunities where USDT and USDC were worth less than $1. So that means that you could have bought those at a discount and arbitrage those and made some money, right? And that's a very inefficient market. That's not very helpful for anybody other than the guy that is buying from the guy that's mispricing and selling at a loss, right? Because that's the loser there in that situation. So this kind of helps everybody out by making it a more efficient market via the stable swap pool, which we call the bridge stable pool. And this basically has USDT, USDC, and DAI all in one pool, right? And there's $4 million in there. So anybody with size, this is probably what they're going to be using if they need to swap stable coins. If they're, let's say they're coming in with DAI only, right? And they use a router. What the router will do is take that DAI, it'll swap it for the other stable coins kind of in tandem, right? And then spread it out to then go into the liquidity pools versus USDT Impulse, USDC Impulse, and DAI Impulse, right? And it'll probably do it to where it's probably 40% DAI, and then you have your 20, maybe I would say maybe 30%, 30 and 30, right? So probably look something like that, right? If they were just coming in DAI, they would go into the router, and then it would route them in those pools, and then they'd get the best price that they possibly could have, and they would have to have gone through PHUX, right? So that's really useful for the bigger guys when they're coming in, right? And obviously you'll see the CTS stable pool, which is currently the only native stable on PulseChain. So they have a stable pool as well. It's doing really well. And you'll see that there's the RHMax pool with a bunch of RH coins. Kind of.
Yeah, I was going to ask Buck. I forgot though. When are you going to put a picture of me, my avatar, on the RHMax pool?
No, it should be right there.
I keep waiting for it. I mean,
sir, you can make your own pool. Yeah, and you can have your own custom weights, and you can start your own, community liquidity going, and perhaps even get a farm, right? I mean, because you see these APYs over here, right? Like those are some pretty high numbers, some of them. Okay, but yeah, so. To continue here, I mean, you'll see Alex Hedron Maxi. You can see all.
I just want to just on the stablecoin real quick too. I mean, go through the Alex one because I think that's important, and the Maximus one. I want to cover that, but also the stablecoin earning yield on. Hey, if you don't think the stablecoin is going to go to zero, and you can earn 20, 40, 30, 50% or whatever. That's kind of crazy. Like that's kind of like many people call that a no brainer. Yeah,
that is some passive income, sir. That is
yes.
That's creme de la creme. That's good stuff right there, if I do say so myself. But yeah, so as I was saying, with the Alex Hedron Maxi pool, a lot of these coins, the altcoins of the community, they're pretty liquid, especially right after the fork. It's kind of like took all of the air out of the system. There was no logos, there was no support from PulseX. Even when we launched Fiat, it was 10 hours after the fork. We sent the PulseX dev our logo immediately. I was like, hey, man, here's our stuff. When can you add it? And then no response, right? No reply. They read the messages, but just nothing. Okay. However, you'll find that all the logos are here. All the third-party guys, they have some sort of pools here. And a lot of them have gauges, right? They're getting PHUX rewards in these farms. And I think the best example is probably the Maximus guys. Those are, I would say they were probably lacking a lot of liquidity, especially after the fork. Okay. But now, there's 700K in liquidity there, between all those coins, right? And they're probably priced pretty efficiently. And they're earning a decent APY on top of all of the hex that they're accruing in those wrapped stakes, right? So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I think the shining example here would be these bridge stable coins and the CTS stable pool, and that truly passive income, right, on these farms.
Can you explain that? Like how can you earn such high APR on stuff that, you know, is stable coins and like lower, you would think lower risk things than other coins that may be more volatile. Like where does the fees come from, Dylan? Like where's the ETH come from, Richard? Or where's the ETH go? Use it in that voice. Where did the fees come from, Dylan?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a great question, right? So these are some pretty high APYs, and they will not last forever. Okay. Obviously, as time goes on and the market realizes that this is stupidly easy free yield, the void will fill up, because you could kind of look at it like that, right? Money will go where it's treated best, and these are kind of incentives via PHUX rewards, right? This is like a farm on PulseX. It's very similar to, you know, the PulseX farm. Okay. However, the difference is pretty key to know. You can see there's two APYs here, or two APRs here, right? You have a 16% and you have a 39%, right? Now, when you get this PHUX, you can either get it via, if you're lucky enough to get an airdrop and get some, you could have gotten it that way. If you're currently providing liquidity in these farms and you've staked, you know, into the farm and you're earning PHUX, you could have gotten it that way, or you have to buy it, right, off the market. Now, to get these higher APY numbers, what you need to do is take your PHUX, right, and then you place it in the prime PHUX liquidity pool, all right, and then you would stake that liquidity pool token for a duration of time, up to a year, right? And your goal here is to have your liquidity match your percentage of the liquidity farm match the percentage of your it's called VE PHUX, which is your staked prime PHUX tokens here. Okay. Let's see if I can see mine. Let's go to VE PHUX here. Let's see. So you can see my VE PHUX. So I have 0.2% of the supply, right? So if I'm providing liquidity in some of these pools, if I wanted to get the 2.5x bonus on some of these farms here, let's go back to, let's say, the bridge stable pool, right? So I would need to have, you know, to get the 21% APY, I would need to have the equivalent of 0.02% of the farm, right? And then I'd be able to get that that bonus. And obviously my stake would have to be maxed out as well. My VEPHUX, right? And so, you know, there's a little bit of utility here. And I also didn't even mention that when you do stake your tokens, your prime PHUX and stuff, you get a share of the revenue generated on the platform. So I think it's roughly half. And that's distributed on a weekly basis every Thursday. And so you get, you know, you get cash flows, you get liquidity boosts on your tokens. And you know, you get some very nice yield for being a depositor on PHUX. So very good utility. We've bootstrapped a couple of projects here, you know, with either custom weightings or just being creative or being a stablecoin, right? So really looking forward, I think, for the next editions of the PulseChain ecosystem would be the Liquid Loans guys, the Power City guys, the Minter guys, right? And we look forward to having the liquidity over here, and, you know, especially for the stable coins, right? Cannot be understated. Having that stable swap pool is essential, right? You know, so we really look forward to that. But yep.
Yes.
That is PHUX. Do you have any questions for me, RHMax, or am I going too fast?
No, I'm just looking to the chat too. I think we only had a question on Phamous a while back that I can put up once we get into that. But well, we got here. Go fast. When Ethereum PHUX?
Yeah, that's a great question that I don't know the answer to. So yeah,
I play with PHUX a lot, so I don't have a whole lot of questions as far as it goes. I mean, it's definitely one of the platforms that's, again, like you said, the stablecoin swap, earning APRs,
yeah,
you can lock to
invaluable.
You can farm stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then the you know, then we have Fame. Okay, the arguably maybe the belle of the ball, perhaps. I mean, right now it's creating the most fees. But Phamous or Fame is your one-stop shop for leverage trading on PulseChain, right? It is your place to you know, hedge your risks. It is your place to go risk on. It is your place to short the Ponzi, like a true Bitcoin maxi and yell at Richard that, I shorted your coin, man, and I'm making all this fucking money, right? This is your place.
He doesn't read emails or anything. I'm pretty sure.
He doesn't read. Well, maybe if we sent
no radio
carrier pigeon, with a Twitter post or something.
No.
RHMaxis can be very. I'm sorry, RHMaxis. I mean, the Bitcoin maxis, they can be very creative, I guess, right?
It's true. It's true.
Anyhow, right? This is your place. Okay. What's really cool about Phamous? It's a GMX fork. If you guys aren't familiar with GMX, it was the darling of the bear market throughout 2022. It produced roughly $130 million in fees over the span of a year. Okay, and that's hard cash. That is not Ponzi-nomics, self-inflating, stake your coins and get more coins. Shit. No, that was in ETH and stable coins. Okay, that was cash. So that's really impressive. Okay. And it performed the best in the bear market of 2022. So, we're talking, it was worked really well throughout the shadow banks blowing up. Obviously we all know about Voyager, Celsius, BlockFi, FTX. Okay. So it did really well during all of that fiasco. Tried and true, it worked really well. So, the PH team figured that GMX was the next thing to have in the lineup. So here we are. Now, the cool thing about Fame is, again, just like all the other products, you can have a share in the revenue generated on the platform, right? So kind of similar to how Fiat works. Same way. You can lock up your Fame tokens for however long. If we go to the dashboard here, you can see. Let's see here. Where's my stakes at? Fame Squid. Okay, there you go. So yeah, you have the 14-day unlocking period. You have the 7-day withdrawal window. Same thing, same exact way. Now you're getting paid on Fame. You're getting paid PHLP, which is the liquidity token of the platform. And that's redeemable for all of these assets, right? You can do a bunch of the assets, or you can just do one, depending on your, what you want to do, right? And then you're also getting a little bit of PHUX as a thank you, I guess. And I've been told that the PHUX stuff for both Fiat and Fame, for just staking, is not going to last for a long time. So enjoy it while it does. Okay, but yeah. And kind of just that's the staking portion now. However, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with just the general look of what it looks like to be on a margin trading exchange.
Sure, something.
Yeah. So obviously, it should look familiar to all you guys. Okay. I can open up a long here. Let's go max bidding long. With $20 here. Let's do $23. So we're gonna open up a $600 position on Hex. Let's gonna hope it goes to the moon and I make it all back. Okay. Obviously this is a joke, right? Don't be going long with your entire portfolio. You probably won't even be able to do that just because of the available liquidity, anyways. But for all intents and purposes, we're gonna go long here.
And how much leverage? And can you kind of go through the different knobs and stuff here?
Yeah, so you can see some things here. You can see long, short. You can see that I can short Hex. Now, to short, you need a stable coin. Okay, if you try and short it with Hex, it won't let you. You have to use a stable coin. You have the option of using DAI, USDC, or USDT. Okay, if you want to go long, you have to use the asset that you want to go long. It is a perpetual exchange, perpetual swap exchange. So that means you use Hex to go long Hex. You use PulseX to go long PulseX. Okay. And obviously you have the leverage slider, which, obviously lower leverage is less risky. Higher leverage is a lot more risky. Okay.
What would happen to, for example, in this one, you got 20x, looks like leverage. Like how much could you stand to gain from 1x versus 10x versus 20x in this particular position?
Yeah. So
the $20.
Leverage works in pretty cool ways. So let's use 10x because that's a really easy number to do. All right. Let's say use 10x leverage. Now, a 10% position, or I'm sorry, a 10% move in the market on a 10x leverage position can either wipe out your account or it can double your account. Okay. So a 10x leverage, 10% move up or down can wipe you out. That means liquidated. Okay. Or it can double your collateral, right? So like if I did $1,000 and I did 10x, if the price went down, 10%, I'd lose that $1,000. Now, if the price goes up 10%, I would now have $2,000. Okay. So obviously, as the leverage moves up, it takes less and less for price movement for you to either double your position or you wipe yourself out, right? So let's say 25x, which is pretty high. That's a very high leverage. Okay. A 4% move would wipe out your position or double it. Okay. And then if we're going down to 2x leverage, then it would take a 50% move to wipe you out or double your position. All right. So just
in that too, how has this stuff become final? Like, do you need to, pull out at a certain time? Like when you're looking at the charts, how does it, or just when it hits a certain threshold, when it hits 50% or something?
What do you mean?
You know what I'm saying? So for example, you do 10x and there's pulse, you do hex on 10x leverage and then it goes up 12% or something. Does it automatically, do you just get paid the double, for example? Or you just see it in your account?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like when is this stuff final? Is it up to the user to say, okay, I'm gonna stay or I'm gonna get out?
That's right. Yeah, it's up to you. Yeah, so you got to close the position. Now, you can open up a trigger, which when I open the position, my position open, let me just open up a position. Okay, let's do max long, max bidding. Okay, we're gonna go max bid on hex long here. Please, market maker gods, don't liquidate me. I borrowed this money on Fiat. If you didn't notice that, right? Let's just go remind everybody.
Okay.
This is borrowed money. Okay.
Okay. $20.
Very useful to know, right? If you don't have hex and you didn't want to buy any, but you wanted exposure, and you have deposits on Fiat, you can borrow the hex to go long, right? You can do that. And we kind of made it clear here where you can buy hex on PHUX, where you click on that little logo right there. It takes you right to PHUX, or click on that little logo. It takes you to borrow page. Okay. So let's go long hex. And let's break this down here. So you'll see that my leverage is 30x. My liquidation price is not far from here. You'll see that I'm going to be paying $2.47 in fees. My collateral is $20. Okay. Now, if you can see here, this is $23. So I'll be paying roughly 10%. Okay, that's 10% off my collateral for that fee, right? Now, that is the cost of leverage, right? When you're opening these leverage positions, you're paying 40 basis points on the whole position, right? So it would I'm being charged a fee for $600 of leverage or $600 position on this open and on the close side, all right? And then you can see my borrowing rate right here, which would be 0.0068% per hour. And now we're going to open the position. And I suggest when you guys open these positions, you'll see that my shit is way higher than yours. It's because I have custom gas settings, and I really want all my actions to go through on PulseChain. However, if you just use typically aggressive gas settings, usually your positions will open up right away, right? Unless there's some sort of congestion going on or something like this.
Gotcha.
But what I do, I like 10x to like 50x mine, so that I shove my shit through. I skip everybody. I go right in the front of the line. But yeah, so now we're opening our position. It takes time for this stuff to load, and bada bing. I just open up a long on hex, and now I can go to the close here, and I can set a trigger. So this can be either a stop loss or a take profit. Okay. So I can select the price. Let's say I want to close the maximum at, let's say 0.008. 0.008. So then I would triple my position here. I'd win $58, right, off my $20. So I'd get 282% P&L if I hit that target, right, on my 30x long. You can set this as a stop loss. So we could do 7 to 9. Right, so I'd lose what's the price right now? Yeah, so I'd lose 9%. Okay. I can set my stop loss, but I'm going to use no stops and use max bidding and watch this puppy go to the moon.
So I think whenever triggers is really a good thing to show people too, because you hear stop loss, you hear all this stuff, but like, how do you, if you were going to do something like this, how do you actually use it? How do you prevent yourself from getting super wrecked? You can, do stop losses with the triggers and otherwise. So this is obviously a fun example, but anyone out there using it, trigger, like if I was going to do this, I would definitely set some triggers to make sure either I don't get screwed, or if maybe I want to take some profit, even if it's if it doesn't go to the moon or it goes somewhere close to it, you take some profit too.
Yeah, and another cool feature that we have that doesn't exist on PulseChain yet is limit orders. So you can have a low leverage limit order while you're sleeping. You can have it open up for, let's say you think that on November 28th, the market may go down or the market may go up. Okay. So you do a delta neutral strategy, right? Which is kind of advanced, but basically that means you're going long and you're going short. All right. And you're basically going to win if the market is just volatile, right? That's all you're betting on is volatility, either to the upside or the downside. And that's kind of your bet with delta neutral. Okay. So you could do that before that news event. If there is any news, maybe there isn't, maybe that's bullish. Maybe there's news and it's bad. Okay. And it's bearish. You could do that. But kind of the reason why I'm bringing up limit orders here is you can have you can have limit orders in various assets. You can have them at different prices for different amounts, and you can have them to where if the market is volatile and it's not extremely volatile in the sense where we're going down 50% in 10 minutes, obviously your limits aren't going to be filled. But if it goes down 10% in like, or 30% in like 30 minutes, then you can get your limits to be filled, and that's very useful for people that want to buy in, right, on PulseChain in general. So that's a very useful use case, especially with the low leverage. So yeah, that's great.
That's very interesting. Limit orders using low leverage, very interesting. Yeah.
Yep. And I didn't even go on my typical my pitch here, but kind of winding it back a little bit. There's 3 ways where you can play this game, right? I haven't even mentioned the third way. I've mentioned that you can be a staker, basically like the equity holder at the casino. You get the dividends or whatever, as a shareholder, but you're not getting the crux, the creme de la creme, right? You can be the trader, right? Which is what we just did here. Or you can be the house, right? You can be the liquidity provider. You can be the person that provides the liquidity for the traders to use, right? The traders are paying you by the hour. They're paying you when they open a position with leverage. They're paying you when they close a position. You're getting paid when they get liquidated, right? When they get liquidated, all of their collateral and all their losses, they go to you, right? You're the winner in that situation. Just like when you're the winner, you can also be the loser, right? So when these traders win, which sometimes they do, you're on the hook, right? It's coming out of your pocket, right? And that's in the form of impermanent loss, things like that. But essentially, if you wanted to provide liquidity here, you go to the Earn tab, you go to Provide Liquidity on Fame Protocol, and you click this button here, right? Now, our kind of receipt of deposit is called PHLP, all right? And you can provide liquidity in various assets. Let's go to, you'll see that it is there's target weights when you're providing this liquidity, and there's incentives and there's disincentives and it's fee-based. So if you want to buy into the liquidity pool, you can buy in with one asset, you can buy in with a range of assets. It's up to you. Now, what you may care about is the fee that you're paying when you're entering this liquidity position. So as you can see, HEX is a very high fee right now. That means HEX is overweight, right? So there's too much HEX relative to everything else. The platform is going to disincentivize you from depositing HEX, and it will in turn incentivize you to deposit something that's underweight, which would be like USDT. So 0.15, 15 basis points rather than 42 basis points for HEX. So, you can provide liquidity in a range of different assets. And you're incentivized via the targeted weights of the platform to, lower fees, better entry into PHLP, things like this. Now, the unique advantage that we have over GMX is this liquidity token is tradable. There is a farm on PHUX right now where you can get yield on this yield-bearing asset, right? So when you have PHLP, it is constantly growing in terms of the NAV, right? So, let's say you have $1 worth of PHLP or one PHLP token, whatever. And as time goes on, as traders are trading, let's say the market goes sideways and all of the prices of the assets stay the same, but people are buying and selling. So the NAV, the nominal assets under value, is increasing, right? That means that your PHLP token is increasing in value. So naturally the price will go up. That is kind of reflecting either the market going up or the fees increasing, right? So it's kind of nuanced, but essentially more fees, better for you, right? Obviously. So, and then you'd be able to withdraw more assets out of the pool naturally. Okay. Because, like any other liquidity position, the supply of the PHLP token or, the token that you get as a deposit receipt for anything on PulseX, it is relative to, it's an elastic supply. So it can shrink or grow depending on people depositing or withdrawing, right? So, keep that in mind. Like there was a question that I had a couple of days ago on a private stream where one of the users were concerned about, well, they're a whale in the pool and they're slowly getting ticked away. Well, because other people are depositing into the pool, right? So as the pool grows, obviously, if you're not growing with the pool, you're going down in the leagues or whatever. So because the supply is elastic. Now that doesn't affect your APY or anything like that, right? Because if the pool is growing and the platform is growing, obviously the fees are also growing. So, you're still getting a decent APY anyways. But yeah, so this is one way you can play the game. You can essentially be the house. And this is where you get a majority of the fees on the platform. This is 60% of the platform fees by being a liquidity provider. And let's pull up the analytics page here. Let's go check it out. Let's see.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is a pretty cool place to kind of view what's going on with the Phamous platform. You can see that we've had $32 million of volume over, I think, 2 weeks and a couple of days. And the total fees that we've had is $168,000. That's hard cash, gentlemen.
Okay. Got to 10x that, man. Got to pump those numbers up. 168 in only 2 weeks.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Obviously, 2 days ago, the market was really volatile, and with more volatility comes more trading, which comes more fees, right? So the more activity that we get on the chain, especially when things are going really well, it could be very lucrative for just the house, right? Or the stakers. Okay. So yeah, very something to consider, right? You can see that the assets under management and the PHLP supply, it's growing, right? That means that let's go see here. Yeah, so the traders are losing, right? Over time, just like a casino, right? Naturally, traders are losing. And this could be a factor of guys hedging their risk. They're going short while the market is going up, or they're going long while the market is going down, okay? These people may have overexposure like Buck does to the RH ecosystem. And so he decides to go short, right? And he's opening up these small insurance policies to kind of hedge his position and protect himself against the downside. And it's basically like insurance policies. Now, The inverse is true for guys that want to go long, but they're in cash, right? So think about it, right? There's a lot of guys that have sold recently, and they could easily be going long here to protect against the upside because they're still in cash. And these people are probably happy to lose if the trade goes inversely. So let's say the long guy, right? He's sitting in cash. Let's say you've got $1 million in cash that you sold at the top because you're a Chad, and you haven't bought back in yet. But you think that we're near a bottom. So what you could do is you could open up these long positions with a little bit of principal, and you can decrease your exposure to the upside. And basically, if obviously the prices start to go up, it's running away from you at that point, right? So opening up a long position kind of stops your entry from running away from you, and it's a lot more easy to swallow that pill of, okay, I missed the bottom, but I open up this long and I've mitigated my my potential losses in terms of how many coins I could have bought back, right? So you can do that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and inversely, obviously, if you're exposed to the ecosystem heavily, right, you can open up these shorts in case you think the price is going down, right? Now, when these prices go against your positions, you're making money on the back end via, if you're holding in cash and the prices goes down further, that means you're actually able to buy the bottom. Okay. If you're holding RH tokens and the price goes up, but you're short, you're making money on the back end because you still have your RH tokens, right? So in these ways, hedging your risks is very valuable. It's very useful. You should get acquainted with how to use these things to, increase your knowledge and, use it to your advantage when you're using these platforms. Okay. And then moving on to open interest, right? This just means essentially the leverage that's taken out on the platform globally. You can see that today there's $1.8 million in open positions, and roughly a third of that is going short, and 2/3 of it is going long. So pretty cool.
Long green candles. I don't know what those are. Get them out of my face. I don't recognize them anymore. One question here before we wrap up on Phatty as well. But where's the best place to buy PHUX? Would that be on PHUX?
Yeah. So if you need PHUX, what you got to do is you'd have to provide liquidity in the prime PHUX pool, and then you'd stake it, and that's how you get, PHUX.
So is it not tradable? There's
no,
can you buy it off market?
It's like a T-share, right? So you can't can't buy T-shares. You can buy the Maximus stuff, but the actual, can't buy T-shares. You have to.
Can't buy T-shares. We have a lot of derivatives. You know that.
Yes, that's what I'd say. You can buy the Maximus stuff,
and,
HSIs and all that stuff. But in a similar case of this, PHUX, you'd have to provide liquidity in the prime PHUX pool, and then stake that, and that's how you get PHUX. So
good question, Alien. Phatty is the one, the first one I came across and started using a lot because I kept looking at Godwell's wallets and stuff. That's like the funnest thing for me on there. We'll go over that to tie everything together.
Yeah, so I'm not going to open up Phatty because I don't know if my wallets are on there right now. But yes, Phatty is a great resource for you to kind of view what's going on in the market. There's like a main page where it shows you news articles, shows you YouTube videos. It's kind of tailor-made to talking heads in the industry, and then maybe a sprinkle of legacy stuff in there, right? But mostly you would have probably seen the RHMax stream on the newsfeed on Phatty. You would have seen the other streamers that are on there. It just shows up in a mini newsfeed. Pretty cool. And then obviously, it's Phatty demo. So if you go to prices and media, there you go. Bam. So you see DCC. This kind of updates.
Don't even have our own stream on here, Dylan. Come
hourly. On. So it might not show up, right away, right? But it updates like hourly, intermittently, maybe 5 hours. It takes a while to update. But
I got a tweet at least. You got the tweet.
There you go. So it's kind of tailor made for the community, but it also gives you a little bit of the outside of it, right? And then right next to it, you'll see the prices in, kind of like the coin market cap style fashion. But what you guys probably care about is PulseChain prices. I pretty much always am on that, which is all the way on the right. Keep going over. Yeah, PulseChain prices. Now, this is tailor-made, right? This is for us, okay? And, you can see PHUX, PulseX, PulseChain, PShib, okay? You can see who's doing the well. Yeah, so look, one of the meme coins are doing pretty well right now, right? You can see G'day. That's Tom Gillespie's coin, actually, the G-Day one. Pretty cool. So yeah, this is your place, right? Oh, oops, one of the other meme coins is performing the worst, right?
It's weird how they do that. It's weird how they go up and down like that, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So yeah, this is your place. Now you can also go to your portfolios, which you're not signed in, so maybe it doesn't show anything, but you can aggregate kind of all of your wallets, right? And you can kind of keep track of everything. And that's really useful. I use that all the time. I have multiple wallets, right? And kind of aggregating them all into one place is really useful to me to kind of see what I'm doing and what's going on. So, I got a lot of deposits and a bunch of different addresses on Fiat. And it's really easy for me to get lost in which ones are which. And this really helps me when, I aggregate all of them together and stuff. So using the portfolio tracker, is really easy. If you need help with it, you can DM me. But generally speaking, it's pretty intuitive. You just follow the instructions and you can start tracking your portfolios and stuff. Yep.
Yeah, if you sign in here, you can track stuff and see. The cool thing about it doesn't only do your coins across different networks, but it does like your liquidity positions and stuff, like you said too. It's pretty cool to see, like, to get insight into what things look like, what the prices look like. You can, it's like the one of the coolest portfolio trackers I've seen, as far as keeping track of all the things you got going on, not just your liquid positions.
Correct. And you can see on the left, we've got Fiat, Fame, PHUX, PHUX tools, and then you have the bridge, right? So there are people that I know that have gotten scammed from the fucking bridge website by just Googling it on Google, right? Please, for the love of God, do not Google PulseChain bridge. You will lose all your fucking money. Don't do that, all right? Go on the Telegram, ask for the bridge, the link, or go to Phatty and click on the bridge thing right here, right? It'll take you to the Pulse ramp or whatever the link is, right?
Don't Google naked mill rat either. Don't Google that.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. And but yeah, so be mindful of that. Use that, that's an advantage that you have, right? To protect yourself. Use it. Please. But yeah. Now what are we doing here? If you go to Whale Watch.
I was looking at what God, this is one thing that drew me to Phatty, was just like looking at Godwell and his ungodly.
That's only one of his wallets. Go to Whale Watch again.
Yeah.
Now click on the actual word Godwill. There you go. Now this is all of his wallets that we know of. Okay. This is come from, huh?
Come on. I said pretty amazing, but then I was like, come on, load. So much information.
To load, believe me.
Yeah.
A lot of shit. Yeah. So he's got $500 million, guys. And he's got shitloads of hex. Okay. As you can see, he's kind of done 50-50 Ethereum and Pulse. Basically, this used to be worth, he used to have $1 billion, but obviously the market has gone down, so he's not worth that much now. It is a lot of money, relatively speaking, but you can see, he's got, I don't know why it's trying to load Fiat for him. He doesn't have any Fiat. I know that. But yeah, so he's got Hex, PHUX, he's got PulseX, he's got PulseChain. He's got $21 million in Pulse, and he has $8 million in PulseX. Okay. It looks like he sacrificed more for PulseX than he did for Pulse. Ouch. He's got a lot of ETH still. He's got $190 million in ETH. But a lot of his position, I think, is in Hex, if I'm not mistaken, which are, I think he has, if you go down, this is just what he has liquid. There you go. He's got $58 million in Hex. Fucking Chad, yeah. And that's
at these prices.
That's on ETH.
On ETH at these prices too. Like, imagine.
So you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see the Hex position. There you go. 143. He's got a lot of Hex.
That's crazy. Maybe he can sell it in 10 years. We'll see.
Yeah. So
maybe.
Yeah, God will. He likes to buy, but he also likes to sell. Okay, he sells just a little bit here and there. Doesn't
He
sell a lot.
believes in delayed gratification. Look at this. Even with Icos and Hedron going crazy down, he's still got over $1 million.
Oh yeah,
On both sides.
look at that. Yeah, Hedron and Icos are pretty depressed at the moment. So having $1 million at that price, pretty impressive, man.
Super Chad.
Yeah, super Chad. So there's a bunch of different wallets on Whale Watch. You can add a wallet yourself via the My Portfolios tab, and you click on. There's a button that says private or public. You click on public, and it would show up on this page. And obviously, it's voted on. People voting on it. Yeah, Vampire Jack McGoogle von Putin.
My hacked wall. I'm gonna murder you when I find you. Some personal things in here.
Yeah, this is community driven. So, we don't, obviously we'll moderate it if it's like some really, really fucked up shit. Right. But generally speaking, unless you're posting like addresses, phone numbers and shit like that, this is free game. Okay. But yeah, this is a useful resource for those that want to use it. But yeah, this is
Dylan.
Phatty.
That is the PH ecosystem. Great stuff, man. Like seriously, that's builders build, and you guys have like put together products that I remember Buck talking about too. Is Phatty is like nobody makes any money off Phatty, right? It's just a cost center. It's just a DApp that's cool to use, and everyone we're glad it exists. So like having that around as being a part of the tools we can use is just
Yep.
This community is the best. It really is.
Phatty is a passion project. There's no token tied to it. There's nothing like that. We just needed it. So, devs built it for us. So
amazing, man. Amazing. Well, we'll wrap up there. We got dinner calling my name as well. But man, what do you, this is the question I ask all the everyone who came this week to Founders Week. What is, I've got my Hex, I've got my PulseChain. What does PH do for me? Just clarify for people. What does it do for me that I need it for? Like, what do I need to use these products? And not saying everyone needs them, but if I were going to do these things, just briefly summary, like how do they help people with their bags?
Yeah, so it allows you to hedge your risks, right? We didn't have that last bull cycle, so now you're able to take and short the tops if they're too bubbly, or you can long the bottoms if prices are too depressed. Right. So you can hedge your risk. You can, this will help you diversify. If you want to provide liquidity, you can do that on PHUX. But yeah, I mean, the market needs this stuff. The PH guys, Buck really wanted this stuff and he needed it. And so here it is. And what's really great is the community has a chance to own this stuff. Right. So a lot of these platforms and products, they have a CFI equivalent, and they enrich people that, they just extract value, or they have no interest in furthering, any sort of relationship on the chain via you could just have been an FTX for all, some of those will exist on PulseChain one day, right? There's going to be some sort of exchange that has PulseChain on it. Obviously, that'll be a great day, obviously, but I'm just saying having the DeFi equivalents on the chain is very valuable. Now, what it does for the individual is how you use it, obviously. We could maybe see a situation where, like with Arbitrum, where GMX was the darling and basically brought all the value to Arbitrum just because of the fork or just because of GMX was on there, right? And it was the darling of the bear market, right? That's where all the trading volume comes from. Arbitrum is just from GMX. Maybe one of these DeFi protocols will be that, right? Is it going to be Fame? Don't know. Will it be Fiat? I have no idea. Will it be PHUX? I have no clue. But it'd be nice if it was one of them, just so that we can get this sort of life bred back into the chain, right? Even if it was Liquid Loans or Power City or if it was Mintra, whatever it was, it'll increase the value of the whole chain, and that's great. yeah, I mean, for the individual user, I mean, it's like I said, it just depends on how you're using this stuff. If you use it to your advantage, to increase your knowledge set, or use your capital more efficiently, right? Instead of it just sitting in your wallet, you can put it to work. You can go do something with it, right? So I mean,
managing risk.
Yeah.
PulseChain ecosystem to the moon. One day. That's what we're hoping. That's what we're building. We're here. We're streaming. Trying to help people understand the stuff to get it right before the opportunities either pass them by or they're here and everyone's like, oh, what do I do again? It's like, you have enough content.
Yeah, and I think what's important is we all need to kind of figure out how PulseChain will survive here, like what we need to do to ensure the survival of PulseChain, right? I think some of these guys that are going out into conferences and talking, like Corey and Dane, I love those guys, right? I want to help those guys as much as I can, right? I watch them present in front of an audience that was not broke. They paid to be there, and they want to learn, right? And they have money. They're not fucking, some crackhead with $200 that wants a Tesla by next week, right? No, they're people that have long time horizons. They're middle class. They're not exactly financially free yet, but they have money, right? And I think what Corey and Dan are doing is perfect, right? And
that's awesome.
I work with them in any way that they're doing that, right? So
outbound messaging.
Exactly, yeah. So I think the community needs to start, doing that stuff, right? Again, outbound messaging again, right? I'm gonna do my part and help them out. But yeah, what are you doing for me, RHMax? I'm a hex holder.
What am I doing for you? This is
what are you doing for me? Huh?
That's true. I'm not letting you stake and earn massive amounts of yield before everyone else gets in and can earn free coins. I'm not doing that. It's one thing I'm not doing. However, I am doing PulseChain Founders Week. Great segue to wrap up on that, man. Yeah, it's been great. I love talking to you guys, and you in particular, doing all the demos, just letting people know how these products work. Shout out to everyone out there who's speaking conferences, doing stuff like that, and just outbound messaging or just building. There's so many different ways you can participate in the ecosystem, and it's true. It's the code's here, or a lot of the code's here. There's more codes coming, but the community is something that can't be replaced, and that's why we got to keep it together. Everyone keep it together, survive, thrive, and there will be hopefully lighter days ahead for sure, man. I appreciate you, seriously. You and Buck and everyone else building these products. I know it's often a thankless job or a negative, whatever the opposite of thinking is, can be that as well. But appreciate you being here and doing all this cool stuff, man.
Yes, I didn't join this community, years ago, because we're all singing butterflies and shit. No, there's a lot of intelligent people here. There's a lot of nut jobs, and there's a constant source of entertainment in this community. Okay. And it is always a ball going on. There is some shit going on all the time, and it's great. I live for it, and it's
vibrant. We are vibrant.
Yes, it is maybe one of the reasons why I'm still here, and still deal with all this shit. But yeah, I love it. So
the Lambo too, the Lambo and the vibrancy and the it's fun. It's fun. We'll say it like that. It's fun. All right, everyone. Tomorrow we'll be back with Tetra, and I got Stu coming on the morning, him and Neil for t-shirts, and then demo day. So if you got whatever your favorite founder is who hasn't been on the show this week, or even the ones who've been on the show, feel free to come back too. 10 minutes, demo your product, and show the community what you got, and it'll be a fun time. We're at Founders Week up tomorrow, and then I'm going to rest on Saturday. Just want to get that out of the way. All right, man. Again, thanks for coming. Always good to have you on. And everyone else out there, Scivive and 5555. We are out.